remember the day Pharaoh's decree reached our village. The words carried through the camp like black wind, sharp, terrifying, final. Every Hebrew son born was to be cast into the Nile. No trial, no delay, no exception. It was a death sentence wrapped in the seal of a throne. Others packed their few belongings and disappeared into the wilderness, hoping to outrun the Egyptian sword. But where could I go? Where could any of us go where Pharaoh would not reach? When he was born, he did not cry at first. He opened his eyes and looked at me as if he understood the danger. Then the smallest sound escaped his lips. A soft whimper, not a scream. I took it as a sign. He was beautiful, not just in the way all mothers believe their child is beautiful. He was radiant, extraordinary. Something in me said, this one is marked by God. But to keep him alive meant risking everything. I named him in my heart, but spoke nothing aloud. Not even my husband knew the name I whispered in my prayers. For 3 months I smothered his cries with my cloak. I fed him in silence. Every knock, every hoofbeat, every shout outside made my heart lurch. My husband Amram was strong and faithful, but even he began to doubt. "It's too dangerous," he said one night as we crouched in darkness. "The soldiers have been sweeping through Goshen. They will come." But I couldn't hand him over, not while I had breath. I had no sword, no influence, only faith and hands that would not let go. Then came the day I knew the walls of our house had become a tomb. I felt it in my bones. If I didn't act, we would all be destroyed. So I wove a basket of papyrus reeds, coated it with tar and pitch. It was not elegant, but it was watertight. My arms trembled as I lined it with linen, whispering scripture with every fold. "You are my hiding place. You will protect me from trouble." My daughter Miriam watched, her small hands trembling too. She was old enough to understand, young enough to hope. She didn't ask what I was doing. She only said, "I'll watch him." We walked to the Nile together. Myself, my daughter, and the child I had hidden from the empire. The river was swollen and cold, the reeds tall like silent sentinels. I kissed his forehead, breathed in the scent of his skin, and laid him in the basket. I didn't cry. My tears had dried up long ago. I whispered, "God of Abraham, God of Isaac, receive him." And I let go. He floated gently into the current. I turned away, but Miriam stayed behind, hiding among the reeds, her eyes locked on her baby brother. Pharaoh's daughter came to bathe later that morning. She was not alone. Her attendants flanked her like guards of porcelain. But it was she who saw the basket. She opened it and gasped. The child began to cry, not a wail, but a cry that pierced the silence. And something broke in her. She knew it was a Hebrew child. She should have obeyed her father's law. But mercy overtook blood. She lifted him out and held him close. She didn't know the name Moses yet, but she had already chosen him. Miriam, brave and quick, stepped out from the reeds. "Shall I fetch a Hebrew woman to nurse the child for you?" she asked. And the princess, still mesmerized, nodded. That's how I was called to the palace, not as a servant, but as a mother restored. I held him again in my arms, in Pharaoh's house, under his very roof. The same hands that had hidden him now nursed him in the halls of his enemy. I named him Moses because he was drawn out of water. But in truth, he had been drawn out of death itself. I watched him grow. I taught him the stories of our people, the God who made the stars, who wrestled with Jacob, who called Abraham friend. I whispered truth into his ears even as he walked the courts of Egypt in royal robes. Some called me foolish, reckless, a mother too stubborn to bow to reason. But they didn't see what I saw. They didn't feel the presence that hovered when I prayed over his crib. They didn't sense the fire in his gaze, even as a boy. They thought I was hiding a child. I was protecting a prophet. He grew up in two worlds. In the palace, he was a prince, dressed in linen and gold, taught by the scribes of Egypt, trained in the speech of diplomats and the strategies of war. He learned hieroglyphs and the secrets of the stars. They believed they were shaping him into an Egyptian, but I knew the truth. The blood of Levi ran through him. The cries of our people stirred something deep within his soul. He ate at Pharaoh's table, but he never lost his appetite for justice. I saw it in the questions he asked, the way he looked at the slaves who toiled outside the gates. He was troubled by their chains, even when he wore bracelets of gold. As he grew older, I saw the tension in his heart, the pull between privilege and purpose. He belonged in both worlds, but felt truly at home in neither. He had the mind of a prince, but the heart. I remember one evening, when he was perhaps 20. He came to me with a look I had not seen since he was a babe. "Why do they suffer?" he asked. "Why does Pharaoh build his kingdom on their backs?" I had no easy answer, only this: because the world fears what it cannot control. That night he could not sleep. I watched him pace, his jaw clenched, his fists tight. I knew something was awakening in him, a call too loud to ignore. He began spending more time outside the palace, walking among our people in disguise, asking questions, listening to their pain. Some called him a spy, others feared he was a traitor. But many began to whisper, "Could this be the one?" I feared for him, yet I trusted. The God who preserved him in the river was now preparing him in the court. I had let go of him once, and I would do it again if called. My grief remained, but so did my faith. For every moment of loss, God had given me glimpses of glory. He learned the histories of the nations, the arithmetic of merchants, the astrology of priests. He understood Pharaoh's laws and memorized the dynastic lineages. But I reminded him daily of who he truly was. "You are not Egyptian," I would whisper when the guards passed. "You are a son of Israel." He rode horses through the gardens, trained with swords beside noblemen, and debated philosophy with tutors who feared his wit. But his soul never aligned with their idols or their gods. I watched him pray in secret, facing the hills of Goshen, where his people groaned under labor. My joy was his presence, but my sorrow never left me. I knew he could not stay there forever. Egypt may raise him, but it could not hold him. There would come a time when the palace walls would tighten around him like a trap, and he would have to choose who he truly was. And when that day came, I prayed he would not flinch. When he turned 28, I saw more fire in him than ever. He questioned the overseers. He challenged the customs. He refused to sit at banquets while his people ate dust. The older nobles muttered he had been too long among the Hebrews. They said Pharaoh's daughter had made a mistake, but the mistake had been theirs. For while they clothed him in Egyptian linen, God had wrapped him in purpose. Moses had grown into a man of strength. His eyes missed nothing. His steps were sure. But beneath it all, he carried the ache of his people. I saw it weigh him down like a yoke, and in the silence of night, I heard him pray in the language of our fathers. I do not know how long I would have him, but I knew God's hand was still upon him. What began in a basket had not been lost to the waters. It had only just begun. He would be drawn out again, not from the river this time, but from the court of Pharaoh. Called by name, set apart,